First of all, thank you very much for coming. And I would like to thank the Foreign Press Association for bringing all of you here. I have to apologize for those who couldn't come because, you see the room is quite limited. It's almost 100 people. But definitely we'll try one way or another to accommodate the journalists in order to have access to the information. So I'm going to speak on two items, and then I'll be happy to answer all your questions. So the first one will be about the emergency session of the OPCW, and then our cooperation or absence of cooperation with Britain on the Skripal case. So basically 2 points, and then the questions and answers. So the first one is the yesterday emergency session. You know that, I'm quite sure that most of you know this, we called emergency session of the Organization for Prohibition of the Chemical Weapons, so OPCW. And the meeting was held yesterday. And the purpose of that meeting was very simple. We wanted, first of all, to present the story, our story at the organization. And then we wanted to engage Britain in cooperation with us using the mechanisms of the OPCW. In order to do this, we proposed a draft decision. So that decision was supposed to take by the members of the Executive Council. And so if the decision was taken, there were some procedures that will definitely facilitate the investigation, finding some facts and all these things. So what we offered to the other members of the organization, so I'm just going to quote three paragraphs. Paragraph 3, so the decision calls on member states to consult, cooperate, and share information with each other in good faith in order to prevent such incidents and to prevent politicization and related tensions. Paragraph 4 calls on Russian Federation and the United Kingdom to conduct a joint investigation of the Salisbury incident, which will include full access of investigators to the victims of the incident, place of the incident, and to the samples of the substance used in the incident and the analysis. And now goes the paragraph 5. Requests the Director General to facilitate efforts of the Russian Federation and the United Kingdom to establish facts with regards to the incident and cooperate in the most transparent and effective manner. End of quoting. So basically that was supposed to be the decision. And as I said, we wanted full cooperation on the British side. We wanted to see, the evidence. We want to have access, but not only Russia. We believe that it should be available for the whole world. And that was the purpose of our decision. And of course, some countries were not happy with that. We know all of them. And we put this decision to vote, so-called roll call, when everybody is named. And I'll tell you, that was quite interesting results. 15 countries, 1-5, voted against that decision. So basically they voted against transparency. They voted against the access to the full and fair information. And this is the, mostly this is the countries of the EU and NATO. We're talking about Poland, Slovakia, Spain, Switzerland, UK, US, Australia, Belgium, Estonia, France, Germany, Italy, and a few more. 2 countries more. They are not part of NATO. And so we got 6 countries who voted in favor, and 17 countries who abstained. It means what? It means that these countries were under very strong pressure from the first group, which voted against, but they take a real, let's say, honest position, and they dissociated themselves with the position of the West. So basically, you have 23 countries against 15. What is interesting, among these, let's say, 23 countries, it's all Latin America, all Africa, and all Asia, with 2 exceptions. So this is basically, make your own conclusions. This is how our British counterpart call it as the whole world, international community. So the international community is not ready to associate themselves with the position which was taken by the UK and the United States, and which was supported by the EU and NATO countries. So that's a great food for thought for everybody. Of course, it's not the end of the story, because what do we have today? The decision didn't pass. It's okay. We're going to wait for the results of the mission that visited UK. What I heard from our delegation is that the results will be probably presented to the British side probably in a week. And what is interesting, it's up to the British side make it available for the other members of the organization. So it means that without their consent, it couldn't be done. So I urge the British side, as soon as the OPCW will get the results, just let us, everybody, have these results. Be transparent, be honest. We want to see this. That's exactly what we want. By the way, it was very interesting, you know. By the way, who is reading our tweet? Could you raise the hands?
We read your tweets.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Of course. Okay, let's put it the other way. Who is not reading our tweets? Okay. What is interesting, we put the quiz, and 68% out of the 1,400 replied that the outcomes of Skripal and Glushkov cases investigation will be classified by the UK government. So the British do not believe that this investigation will be opened. So this is not us, this is the British public. So what we're going to have later, so as soon as we'll get the results, we are going to urge the British side to be transparent, as I said, and present us the results. But the major problem for us is that they didn't answer the questions which we posed, and there are something like about 40. Some of them are here. You will find it very interesting. All of them are published on our website. And of course, we're going to raise this question once again at the organization on this OPCW. And today we are calling the meeting of the UN Security Council, where we're going to discuss all these things about the policy of some countries, and to discuss this Skripal case, poisoning in Salisbury. And of course, it's not the end of the story, but we're coming to the other part of my remarks, is how we're engaging UK in this all this investigation. But before I'll do this, I would like just to make a few comments on the Secretary Johnson's tweet yesterday. And because, and I'm quoting him, I mean quoting the Twitter by Boris Johnson. Porton Down identified nerve agent as military-grade Novichok. So this is the statement. Okay, but we want to check it. For the time being, 1 month, UK is refusing to give us samples. Hope it will be checked by the OPCW, but we want these results transparent for everybody. So it's up to the United Kingdom to give consent whether it will be allowed everybody to know the results of that investigation or not. Second, Boris Johnson. Russia has investigated delivering nerve agents likely for assassination, and as part of this program has produced and stockpiled small quantities of Novichoks. I like the word likely. I like the word highly likely. Maybe it's clever, but what I want to say that, so first of all, it's not true. This is first. And that, let's say, statement is not supported by any evidence. Number 3, Russia has motive for targeting Sergei Skripal. It's not true. Absolutely not true. And we hear all the, let's say, stories and the some kind of theories about our motivations. We don't buy it. Just for us, this kind of statements are unacceptable. So this is about the Twitter. Now we're coming back to one more serious point. When you read the British press and when you hear the British statements, you can find that there is a, let's say, it's just was repeatedly saying so. It was said that Russia didn't answer to these 2 famous questions, whether we had deliberately made poisoning or we just lost control over the poison, so-called Novichok. So basically that was 2 things that was asked by Boris Johnson, and later on it was said by Prime Minister, and that was said on the 12th of March. And since that time, every day, the British government is repeating that they didn't get the answer from us. It's not true. When I met Boris Johnson, that was on the 12th of March, and he put all these questions in front of me. So the next day, after probably maybe 12 hours, we wrote official note from the Russian government. This is the note of the embassy. It's official paper. And I'm quoting. For those who wants to read this note, I'll be happy to share. It was said that, referring to the meeting between Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson and Ambassador Yakovenko on the March 12th, so Russia has the honor to inform that the Russian Federation was not involved in any way in the incident that took place in Salisbury on the 4th of 2018. So 14, maybe 12 hours later, we immediately answered. And when I hear today the statements of the British officials that we didn't answer, I think this is something wrong, with this kind of information, because, you can see this note, I'll be happy to show you. This is the, and by the way, I can quote certain things. Given that the Foreign Secretary put forth quite serious accusations against Russia, that's what we were writing to him, the embassy demands that samples of the chemical substance to which the British investigation is referring be provided to Russian experts for analysis within the framework of the joint investigation. Without that, all allegations by the British side are pointless. So, and then we're making a few references to the other notes, but the first note that we sent, that was on the 6th of March. Basically, we wrote it on the 5th, as soon as we'll official documents which the Foreign Office received, and I'm quite surprised why we hear in the statements of the British officials something which is not supported by any, in this case, evidence. Then let me brief you on some other things that are taking place. A month passed since the time when the 2 Russian citizens were poisoned in Salisbury. The Foreign Office is not answering to our notes. Well, we received just 2 notes that Skripal is in critical condition, and this is it. They're telling us that they're not cooperate with us. They are refusing to present any samples of this poison or whatever, this agent, this substance. We don't know in which condition Sergei and Yulia Skripal are, and absolutely no information. What we hear is just the leaks from the press. Every day new version, every day new story. That the poison was found in the car, then on some other place in the house, and at the end, the last story was what about the bucket that was brought from Moscow. But instead of presenting us any evidence or to fulfill their international obligations, it's the Vienna Convention 1963 and the Consular Convention 1968. This is bilateral one. We have nothing. So it's the question how the country fulfills the international obligations. But my personal question is, why that's happening? Why we don't have access? You can just read the leaks. You don't have anything. Probably the most interesting statement was made by the head of the Porton Down lab, which was excited the public. And that brought us the reading of the famous tweet of the Foreign Office. But I'm not going to speculate on that. This is up to the Foreign Office to explain their own people what's happening in the UK. But as I said, no information about the Yulia Skripal. We don't know about Sergei. This is our people. They're Russian citizens. A month passed. And of course, we're waiting for the visit of the sister of Yulia Skripal, Victoria, who is waiting for the visa in Moscow, British visa. And we'll see, what will be the outcome of that visit. But it doesn't replace our relations with the British side. I don't know, it's just for how long we have to wait. But it looks like that this secrecy is all about this story. This is the new realities, and I'm ready to answer your questions. We'll start. Before I'll just our dear friend, Mrs. Gerson, Before answering your question, I have to apologize. Because after our previous press conference, someone from Daily Mail didn't like your dress and how you looked, and wrote something really disgusting in his column. Yeah, we'll give you a copy. But since the press conference happened in my house, and you were treated so unfairly, I have to apologize. This is the realities. And then now your question.
I didn't read that question.
Good for you, good for you. We are reading everything what is published in the UK.
Okay, so Your Excellency, my question was just to clarify, when did you last request any information about the condition of the Skripal, and whether Victoria has requested, Victoria, the news of Sergei Skripal, has requested this information, and when is she likely to come to the UK?
Yeah, we just asked about the condition of the Skripals, recently, just a few days ago. We're just reiterating, we're saying that this is the new note, please answer the question. But they're not answering the question. The Foreign Office is silent. But we're in contact with another Russian citizen who is the sister of Yulia Skripal. She's going to come to London. She's waiting for the visa. I hope that the British government will issue this visa in time. But we hope that the British side will arrange the visit of the hospital, because today nobody is allowed to come there. It's not just a regular hospital. This is the hospital in Salisbury. And we believe this is the humanitarian case, and we could expect that the visa will be issued as fast as possible, because this is everything in the hands of the British government. Usually in these cases, you can issue the visa, in 24 hours. It's not a big deal. But still, she's waiting for almost 2 days now. We'll start, from that, and go there further, please. Yeah, use the microphone, because we have live, and I'm quite sure that a lot of people are interested, to hear your question. Maybe you will say that where you're from,
Thank you, Larissa Brown from the Daily Mail. Just a couple of questions. How do you explain evidence pointing to Russia exploring the use of Novichok on specifically door handles and other objects? And also, have you had any reported break-ins in your laboratory in Russia that's produced Novichok? And could possibly the agent have ended up in terrorist hands? And also, would you allow the UK to quiz any Russian suspects that they identify? Thank you.
First of all, about the labs, I said that it was said once again yesterday. We didn't produce any Novichok. Actually, I'll give you later the speech of the Russian expert. That the whole story about the Novichok started in the United States in the 90s, and I'm not going to take your time, but it has nothing to do with Russia. We never produced it. We never had Novichok. This is the creation, of some other countries and some scientists. This is first. Second, of course, if there will be any suspects, we're ready to cooperate, and we ask for the let's say, legal help, from the British government, and we're ready to cooperate. But in order to cooperate, first of all, at least to have, a request from the British side, but we don't have any access to the investigation at all. So basically, you have a fair question, but since the Britain is not ready to cooperate, what we can do, in this case. As far as the stories about the car and all these things, it's not an official, let's say, version. It's something which was leaked from, I don't know whom, and published by the newspapers. It's, of course, it's interesting to read, but we want the full and fair cooperation from the British side. I mean, serious conversation, not just the stories. So that's why we will be happy to discuss any official version. This is first, and we'll be happy to investigate together, since we were we were put in very serious accusations. We need the right conversation, and we are surprised why this cooperation is not happening. Speaking frankly, it reminds me of the Litvinenko case. So more than 10 years, and all the papers are classified. If you can read them, you're lucky. We cannot get access to them. So, as I said, we have a criminal case in Russia, because this is 2 Russian citizens, and we are waiting for the cooperation. And 1 month passed since the poisoning of these poor people, and we don't know anything, and you don't know anything, except the stories in the newspapers, and a few tweets. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm Claes Aronsson from Swedish Broadcasting. I'm sorry about that.
Should we?
Yeah,
He got the microphone.
Yeah, on this, excuse me, but on the 17th of March, the Russian foreign minister said that Sweden could be the source of origin of this nerve agent that was used in Salisbury. And why do you believe that? How could you make that conclusion?
Well, it's not exactly how he said. So, what we said that today there are something, if the memory serves me, around 20 countries, quite advanced countries, which has the capability of producing any, let's say, chemical agents. And that country is quite developed. So any lab around the world could do this. I mean, if they have just the normal facilities for that. So it wasn't pointing, directly to that. It could be any country, mostly in Europe.
It was only 3 countries.
No, but that was, I'm just giving you the update. The update, this is, you didn't hear the statement of the Russian delegation, but it was clearly said yesterday in Hague that a lot of countries possess this capability. So that was the gist of his, let's say, he didn't point to the very specific countries. So most of the advanced countries have these possibilities and capabilities. The lady, definitely. We'll come, I'll answer to all the questions.
Benedict Pavio, UK correspondent, France 24, president of the Foreign Press Association. Ambassador, will you accept the results of whatever they are next week, if they are indeed next week, or whenever they come, of the OPCW? And also, if the session this afternoon at the UN Security Council in New York does not go in your favour, what is the next step of the Russian government in this case?
On the second question, I definitely need your advice, what we have to do. Because, I don't know, because first of all, we want to discuss with all the countries, and the Security Council in this case quite a fair place. And then we'll see, what kind of discussion. As I said, the 23 countries against 15. So the majority of the world community is not supporting the Western approach. So this is first. And I don't know what we're going to do. And if, as far as the results, of course we'll accept the results, but these results should be confirmed by the international community. So we want to see who were the experts. For the time being, we don't know who were the experts. Because, last time, the team was headed by the British, in Syria, in Shan Hyun-hun. And that was the real problem for us. And first of all, we need the international team, and we want to see the results like the others. So it should be not just the chosen group, it should be the very transparent approach from the point of view of the participation. So from that point, you will have no problems.
And it sounds like you're asking really the British government to meet at a high level. Are you asking for a meeting between the British Prime Minister and President Putin? How far can this go?
Well, we need the evidence. I think the only thing that we're asking is to present the evidence and to support allegations. Sorry about that. Nothing else. So the first row is finished. Let's go to the... No, it's not yet.
Winter from the Guardian newspaper. Could you just clarify, because your Russian officials have been absolutely clear about this, you will not accept the result of the OPCW inquiry unless Russians are involved in the inquiry itself? Are you now changing your
No.
So long as the UK, which has already promised to do, shares the results of the inquiry with the rest of the OPCW, and if you won't accept the result, aren't you really bringing into question the whole multilateral approach
No.
the OPCW stands for?
No. We, as I said, we want transparency and we want the international presence in this so-called investigation. So, of course, we're happy to have Russians there because we could ask the right questions. But we'll be happy to have other countries, not just from the NATO and the EU, but also from India, from China, from Latin America, from Africa. There are some specialists. So make it transparent. It's not the closed club. So that's exactly what we mean. It's not the changing of the position. We want to be part of that business, not to be excluded.
Thank you. Matt Spont from the Danish newspaper, The Jylland Post. On Monday, the Danish Prime Minister is meeting with Theresa May and to discuss, among other things, Russia. I'd like to ask you if you could give perhaps a short message from you to the Danish Prime Minister. Also, I'd like to ask, why should people in Denmark and all places in Europe believe Russia with its so-so democracy and disappearing journalists over Britain, a long-time friend and ally?
Could you repeat the second question?
Why should we believe you, Russia, with its so-so democracy and disappearing journalists over Britain, which is a long-time ally and friend?
Okay. So, don't take something for granted. Give us the evidence. In my message to the other countries, ask the Prime Minister to present the evidence and then present this evidence publicly. Why to keep it in secret? I'll tell you, I don't understand that. Maybe the Prime Minister will understand that, me not. So that's why my message is make it transparent. It's a very serious issue, and we have to know the truth. At least what it was supported by what was supported. You have the second one. Yeah, the microphone. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Ambassador. Martin Benedict from the Associated Press. Russian state TV has today aired what they say is a phone conversation between Yulia and her cousin, in which Yulia says both she and her father are fine and will recover. Do you know if this phone conversation is genuine? And if so, what is your response to the apparent news that both will recover?
Well, first of all, I don't have any official information from the British side. We still have no answers. So we always rely on something which is supported by any official statements. But this is a good opportunity for us to ask the Foreign Office once again about the condition of Yulia and Sergei Skripal based on the statement which was made on the Russian TV on this Salisbury poisoning. So that's a good question, good opportunity for us to remind about our questions, which were posed maybe 5 times or something, and didn't get any answers.
Kim Stenbuchter from the Independent Ambassador.
So this is monopoly of the British, I know. What's happening here? No, not yet.
I'll ask you 2 quick questions. You have said today, and your government has repeatedly that Russia has had no involvement in what happened in Salisbury. I'm asking your own personal opinion, judgment, as an experienced diplomat and watchers of these things. Who do you think did do it? Mr. Lavrov inferred that it may have been British intelligence or special services, as he put it, to distract from the Brexit negotiations going badly. Do you subscribe to that as well? And secondly, Mr. Ambassador, can I ask you, the British government has provided a number of countries, 29 so far have expelled British diplomats. on...
23.
I think it was more, but correct.
23.
23.
Don't increase the numbers. We're just, only 50% of the mission left.
22. Actually.
Nobody's going to have the press conferences if this kind of things will happen once again.
Okay, let's go 23.
Yeah.
What do you think convinced them to accept and believe the UK position and take the rather drastic step of expelling Russian diplomats? Really, two questions.
Yeah.
One is your view on who did it, and secondly, what you think convinced these countries?
Yeah, I understand. So on the second question, I really don't know, because, it wasn't supported by anything, any common sense. From my point of view, that was sort of the political demonstration to support the allegations. And it's not fair. All of them were called spies. Well, we don't buy it. So it's 23 British diplomats were expelled from Moscow. And of course, the relations between two countries are on the lowest level today, at least, for many years. This is first. As far as this Lavrov statement, he just illustrated our logic. So we believe that if the British side is not cooperating with us, giving us no information, is not ready to give access to the investigation, so he believed that that was the provocation. Otherwise, if it's not a provocation, you would cooperate. You would be happy to know what happened and to make the people in Salisbury safe. But that was his logic. And this is the so-called, that's, as he put it, that brings us to conclusion. So basically, we're not blaming anybody, but having all these things in hand, what to think? So that was what the Lavrov meant.
Mr. Ambassador, Jacqueline Magnet from Australia.
No, the microphone.
Hi, Mr. Ambassador.
No, it doesn't work.
Hello.
Everybody wants to hear you.
Yes, hello.
Just do something.
Hello.
The expert is coming. It works.
Mr. Ambassador, Jacqueline Magnet from the Australian newspaper. I was just wondering, given the deteriorating diplomatic relations and the issue of the World Cup, FIFA World Cup in Russia coming up, do you think that there will be an instance where perhaps Russia might de-invite certain participants in the competition? And also, are you conducting any particular investigations of your own in Russia and in other countries to perhaps work out what happened?
On the World Cup, of course, we're waiting for everybody. We're cooperating with FIFA, and I hope that all the teams will come. And as I said, the majority of the world doesn't support the, let's say, the motivation of the British government and their EU and NATO friends. So that means that the whole world will come, and I'm quite sure that all the teams will come. But if somebody is not going to come, this is their personal decision, but this will be the celebration of sport, and I'm quite sure that there will be good results for all of us. And I think that for us, that's a great opportunity just to show our country, because not so many people know, but last month we launched in Russia 5G. You know what's 5G on your mobile phones? It's 10 times faster than 4G. And I think that the people will, when they come to Russia, they will see that the technology is not bad at all, and the food is great, and the hospitality is really outstanding. So welcome to Russia. As far as the other countries concerned about the investigation, we need the British badly, because this happened, on the British soil. What we can do without the British side. So it's our job is very simple. We have to engage the British side in the joint investigation, or, of course, maybe somebody will help us to convince them to investigate jointly. Because for us it's very clear that these people were poisoned, and they are Russian citizens. And the criminal case is open in Russia. So we want to know the truth. And it's very serious. We have a lot of suspicions about Britain. You know, if you take the, let's say, last 10 years, so many Russian citizens died here in the UK under very strange circumstances. The last one, by the way, Glushkov, he was strangled, as it was said officially, on the 12th of March. He is the Russian businessman, Russian citizen, not the British citizen. And his case is also classified. We don't have any access to the investigation. We don't have anything. We want to know the truth. And my question, why it's happening here? So this is the answer to your question. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Nikolai Groshko, Sputnik News.
They don't like you here.
I know, but I'll survive.
Good.
Is the British government still considering the request for consular access? And could you explain, please, what is the time frame for considering such requests? Also, we hear that the British government says it will depend on Yulia Skripal agreement to meet a Russian consul. But how is it communicated? Is she supposed to tell it to the consul face to face, or is somebody from the British government would simply tell the embassy that she's not willing to meet anyone? How is it communicated?
Good question. First of all, there are no limits, you know, for asking this kind of so-called consular, but there are some, let's say, rules in this world, unwritten rules. If something goes wrong with your national citizen, you could expect that maybe next day or just at once. And at least you have to inform the embassy that something wrong happened. So it wasn't done. So the first request came from us, and the reply took something like a week. This is exactly another let's say, backing, you know, another support of the behavior of the British government. So no limits, no nothing, but we're insisting. As far as the consular access, of course, the consular could come in presence of the police. It depends, you know, what are the modalities. But in order to get these modalities, you know, you have to communicate. And today, Scotland Yard and the British government is refusing to communicate with us. No answer. The telephones are switched off. So that's the problem for us. And that brings us to the very sad conclusions. Why it's happening here? Why such an intransparency? Maybe I'm just looks very annoying, but you know I'm repeating and repeating because you know we're dealing with that every day. And under the Russian Constitution, here in the UK, I mean the Russian embassy has to provide certain services, you know, for its citizens, and we simply cannot do this. And how we can explain to the Russian people? That's why they are making. If you listen, you know, it's the story #1, you know, on the Russian TV, different experts, you know, and so on, and the popularity, you know, of the Britain, you know, in the eyes of the Russian citizens is going down because, you know, they simply don't understand why it's happening. The third row.
Hi, Nico Hines, Daily Beast.
Just louder.
Nico Hines, Daily Beast. You mentioned the Twitter feed earlier, which of course all of us follow. And then there's events such as this. Are you able to measure any success in changing minds, persuading people in Britain or in the West through either of those methods?
What do you mean, the success? Measuring the success on what?
You must watch the way your tweets are retweeted. You know, many people on the left pick up some of these ideas. You know, have you seen any success in your?
It's a very British approach. You know, we want to help the people. What are you talking about? It's not about the success and not success. It's not about policy. The people are in trouble, you know, and we don't know what's happening with them. So I'll tell you frankly, we don't even think of that. And we want just all of you to know what's happening here, and we want to help them. That's it, nothing else.
No,
sound.
David Hughes from the Press Association.
You mentioned the suspicious deaths of a number of Russian citizens in the UK. Why do you think this seems to be a problem that affects Russian citizens perhaps more than natives of other countries here? And you also said that Boris Johnson's response has been unacceptable. Do you think he is to blame for the lack of cooperation you claim to have had from the Foreign Office?
Well, of course, he is the Foreign Secretary and he is part of the government. So basically, we're not. I'm just commented, his Twitter, his personal Twitter, from the point of view of just a reference, and this is it. But what we can say on that? Yes.
Thank you. My name is Ake Bush. I'm working for German TV RTL. So did I get you right that you said Russia doesn't possess and produce Novichok anymore? And can you tell me?
Not anymore. We never produced.
Oh, you never, yes, what you said. You never produced it. Can you tell me when you got it the last time, and if it's possible that there were any probes and rests of Novichok in Russia?
Just for the reference, we shut down all the chemical programs in 1992. Since that time, we started eliminating all the chemical weapons and finished the whole story last September. That was September 17. 2017. So basically, we never produced Novichok. We don't have any chemicals left in Russia. So basically, this is just the fact of life. By the way, United States, which was pushing all of us to eliminate the chemical weapons, is going to eliminate their weapons only in 2023. And this is just the plans. So why it's happening, I don't know. I'm not going to take your time. So basically, I hope I answered your question. The third, yes. We'll count everything. So you will be the last one.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador.
No, sound, please.
Thank you, Ambassador. Charlie from Phoenix TV, Hong Kong. Can I just ask two questions? The first thing is, what do you want to speak to Yulia and Isabel Skripal if you are allowed to visit the two Russian citizens in the future? And the second...
No, could you repeat it just a little bit slower? So my English is not very good, please do this.
Okay. What do you want to speak to the Yulia and Isabel of Skripal if you are allowed to visit the two Russian citizens sooner or later or in the future? And the second is, I just want to follow your personal question. You say, why is it happening? Actually, outside Russia and the UK, lots of people feel confused. Why such kind of things often happen in UK and Russia? Please tell me why.
Good question. I don't have any answer. The second question. On the first question, we want to establish the truth. And I'm quite sure that the Sergei and Yulia Skripal would like to know, what happened to them, who did it, and in order to have these answers, we have to investigate. But for the time being, no investigation is happening. So that's why, it could be me or somebody else. It could be anybody from the Russian side. We want to establish the truth. And I think since then, at least what we hear, that Yulia is in good health now, she probably, she could probably answer to some questions from her side, on the questions that we put to the Foreign Office. And there are something like, I don't know, around 40 of them. So basically, this is the questions, what we want to hear. But from the personal point of view, we are really sorry for them. And this is our people. And I'm going to meet personally Victoria Skripal when she's going to come to London in order just to have a good conversation with her and offer any help what we can make, to offer her everything. So that's at least my goal. Okay. So. Louder, please.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm Yukiko from Nippon TV, Japanese broadcaster. You have mentioned a few times like what is happening in the UK soil, and you have mentioned about previous cases. Like, is there part of you that is blaming UK? And my second question is, what would be the next step if UK doesn't show cooperation?
What was the second question?
What would be the next step as a Russian government if UK keeps not showing cooperation?
Yeah, I don't know what will be the second step, because every country has its reputation, and that's why I think it's. I believe that at the end of the day, we'll get some answers, and the fact that the majority of the OPCW country didn't support the version of the US and the UK in this story means the whole world is waiting for the answer. So this is the answer to your question. Let's go from that side.
Ambassador, my name is Katrin Karbeck, the Deutsche Zeitung, German newspaper. I'm a bit confused about a few things you said. First, you said Novichok never existed in Russia, and you mentioned that the story about Novichok started in the US. My first question is, are you saying that Novichok was probably produced in the US, or has it never existed? If it exists, then does probably Russia research antidotes, just like very many big laboratories in the whole world do, for example, Porton Down, which you can find easily in the databases. So does Russia research Novichok antidotes or not, if they don't exist? Second question, you keep saying they are our people, but I remember that Putin mentioned a few years ago that traitors get what they deserved. Wasn't this your guy a traitor? Third question, question number 4 there is what happened to Yulia Skripal, and is she recovering? How can she appear on Russian television if she's not?
Well, that's her sister. I'm sorry. So it's not Yulia who is on the Russian television. This is her sister who lives in Russia. So basically, she's in good health and she's coming to London. So this is the answer. As far as your question, the first question, I'm not going to answer the question about the Putin, and I'll tell you why. Because he never said like that, and I have all the quotings of my president, and this is just this twisting of the sense what he said. So it's from my point of view, it's not correct. As far as the Novichok, since the question was asked, I didn't think, just to put you into details, but yesterday there was a speech at the OPCW meeting, and Russian expert, Rybalchenko, who is really a very serious expert, and I'm quite sure that you can get his speech, and I'll be happy to give you the copy of that speech. But I'm just making a few references from that statement. And he said that the first, let's say, first mentioning of this Novichok was and available for the broad access that was made in the United States in 1995. There was a report of Henry Stimson Center, the chemical disarmament of Russia. So that was the first mentioning. Then there was the second edition in the U.S. It's called Handbook of Chemical and Biological Warfare Agents. This is the second edition, 2007. I see you're aware of them. And there was a clear description of everything what we have. But then, in 2008, Mirzayanov, who was the former chemist in Russia and then immigrated to the United States if the memory serves me, in 1992, and he wrote a book. And so state secrets and all these things, and he mentioned all these, let's say, substances like A230, A23, A234, and all these things. So this is some kind of a umbrella of these substances that could be produced under the roof of the Novichok. But what is interesting, and please read I'm not going to take your time, please read summary of the yesterday's briefing of the official representative of Russia, Maria Zakharova, and she was posed the question, and she gave at least for two pages illustration of the instructions that were given by Hillary Clinton to the American delegation in Australian meeting not to discuss the Novichok with some others. So that was quite an interesting reading, and there were 7 recommendations, and not to discuss and all these things. So this is a document, and this is one way or another brings you to the sources of the Novichok. I'm not blaming anything, I'm just bringing the facts. Please.
Hi, thank you for having us. Danielle Hamamchik from Canadian Television, CTV News. Canada decided to expel 4 Russian individuals, diplomats or intelligence officers, claiming they had used their diplomatic status to undermine Canada's security and interfere in our democracy. Yesterday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau justified the expulsion of these 4 individuals by linking it to the online smearing of our Foreign Minister, Chrystia Freeland. My question to you is, if there are those who are willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, how do you convince them that despite your capabilities, despite your views, your government's views on Chrystia Freeland, who you have barred from entering the country, you are not behind this? My second question is on the Magnitsky Act.
Second question
on the Magnitsky Act. As far back as 2012, Vladimir Putin said that stopping the Magnitsky Act was a top foreign policy priority. Since then, Russia has tried to stop the UK, the US, and Canada from following through. Why is Vladimir Putin so against a legislation that would help the Russian government target corrupt officials wherever they are?
Because we feel, on the second question, we feel it's not fair. We had an investigation, and we believe that that legislation is very politicized. So this is the answer to your second question. The first question is about the expulsions. I'll tell you that I'm happy that you didn't call them spies, because you don't believe it. And me too. So this is just the regular diplomats, who were making visas, writing reviews about the policy and all these things. Why the people are still thinking all the time that the Russians are the spies? I think this is the privilege of Britain, who likes spies, all the stories. And even the Skripal was, actually he was the MI6 spy, but in the British press he was called like a Russian spy. So it's just quite an interesting statement. So basically, for us, all the expulsions, this is just the demonstration of the solidarity with Britain. This is first, and second, to fill the gap in absence of the evidence, because when you don't have evidence, or at least you cannot present this evidence, you need something big, and in order to have something big, you have to engage the others in order to condemn somebody. So that's exactly what happened with the so-called Western Bloc countries.
Any comments on Chrystia Freeland, the foreign minister, and the smear campaign linking
Smear campaign, this is what? Could you tell me? Because I'm in Britain, not in Canada, don't forget.
Okay, perhaps you paid attention to Justin Trudeau's comments yesterday?
No, I didn't see this.
You did not?
No.
Chrystia Freeland, our foreign minister, is barred from entering.
No, I know that he's a foreign minister, but what did he say? I didn't see. What did she say? I didn't see this.
The Prime Minister linked the decision to expel these 4 Russian individuals to the 2017 smear campaign, disinformation campaign against Chrystia Freeland, who was attacked for having her grandfather being linked to Nazi newspapers. My question is, how do you convince Canadians that you are not behind this?
Well, I don't have any comments, because from my point of view, that kind of decisions were not supported by any common sense. But I'm quite sure that our embassy in Ottawa will definitely give you the right answers to this, in the very specific details. I didn't see this statement. For me, it's very difficult to comment. Sorry about that. Louder, please. No.
Leonie Heights,
Yes.
Austrian TV and radio. You're talking a lot about transparency, and my question is, what is the state of play of the Russian investigations in where the nerve agent came from? I know you don't have access to the samples, but I guess you're doing the best you can to investigate. So what are you doing, and what is the reason?
I got it. Nothing to investigate, because we don't have any facts, we don't have any access, we don't have any evidence. What to investigate? Just the statements of the press is not enough.
Paul Waldy from the Globe and Mail newspaper in Canada. You mentioned that the majority of the world doesn't back the British case, but the majority of the world also doesn't back Russians' denials. You only got 6 votes at the OPCW. Isn't Russia feeling somewhat isolated?
Of course not, because 6 votes in favor of our decision and 17 which didn't support. So altogether it's 23. It's a very simple count. On the other hand, you have 15 who voted against, and this is NATO and EU countries. So when I'm talking about the whole world, it says the whole world.
But they're not backing you.
Please.
Thank you. Philippe Bernard with Le Monde from France. Ambassador, you repeatedly request for a joint investigation. Actually, there is an investigation by OPCW, an international organization you are a member of. So that leads to the question, to what extent do you trust the final results, the final outcome of the investigation next week, and what will happen if this investigation blame in any case, directly or indirectly, your country?
It's very simple. We have to check it. That's it. We have to check the results, and if there will be further investigations or any other activity, we want to be part of that. That's very simple.
You refer to the outcome of a vote under on the investigation, but the result of an investigation is not.
No. I said no. I said that was the let's say vote on the draft decision to investigate. That's a big difference. You see the point?
So you will accept, in any case, the outcome of the investigation in 1 week?
Listen, let's first investigate, and then we'll see. Please.
Thank you. Martinez, Ambassador, you've spoken.
A little bit louder. Thank you.
Thank you, RT News Channel. Ambassador, you've spoken extensively about the lack of cooperation that Russia sees in this situation, and you today have described where we are now as the lowest in terms of ties between Russia and the UK. Do you think there is a positive long-term outcome to all of this? How do these two countries eventually move forward out of this deadlock if this continues? The lack of cooperation, accusing Russia, and Russia feeling like it's not being included in this.
Well, I think the only positive way is to cooperate, and as soon as we'll get the full cooperation from the British side, and we establish the truth together, by the way, because this is the British soul and Russian citizens. We need this, let's say, investigation. And from my point of view, this will be the best results and the best outcome.
Thank you, Ambassador. Roland Norton from the Daily Telegraph. Number of questions. First of all, there was the incident with the Aeroflot flight from Moscow to London last week. I believe British customs officials searched the plane, you protested for the plane hadn't been informed, so on. Could you throw some more light on that, and are you aware of whether there was a formal request from the British side to inspect an Aeroflot plane? If there was such a request, would Russia comply? Secondly, I'm interested by what you said about this Novichok stuff all having originated in the United States. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware...
Don't twist my words. I said about the references in the scientific research. I didn't say what exactly you're telling me now.
Okay.
I like the way, but don't bite.
For example, weren't referring to Andrei Zhemyakov, who in 1992 gave into his Novaya Vremya an out-of-fact paper describing how he was poisoned in a lab while he was working on that subject, or the death of
Who was that? Who was that?
I believe his name was Andrei Zheleznякov or Zheleznякov. You aren't aware of this interview?
You're studying really very good, you know. What was the year?
1992.
Don't expect me to remember all this stuff.
Right, because he gave an interview describing in detail how he worked on this program and was poisoned during it. He died the following year of complications that he says were due to poisoning he'd experienced while working on that program. And also there's the case of the death of the banker Ivan Kivalidi in 1995, which was also attributed to Novichok. So I was just wondering if you could respond to that. And the third thing is...
No, just wait. You know, I have a good memory, not so many things. Just respect the others. You know, on this case, we were blamed by the British government that we have so many versions on the TV of the different stories. You know, I mean, that every Russian expert is telling its own story. This is one of the stories which was said on the Russian TV. Could you imagine, you know, if we will remember all the stories which were said on the BBC or maybe in your newspaper dating back to 1992, 1995? Don't expect from the ambassador to remember all these things. But if you put me in a written way, in a written form, your question, I promise you to answer. No problem. But for me, it's very difficult. As far as the, how to put it mildly, the search of the Russian airplane, we understand that the British side has a right to search the airplane. But what we didn't want, what we didn't accept, is that the pilot and the crew were forced to leave the airplane. And they wanted to make, as they put it, secret search of the plane in absence of the crew. That was the problem on our side. Because under the instruction, the commander who is, and the crew is not allowed to leave the plane. So that was the major problem. And that's why we said that that was a provocation. Because, you know, you have certain rules, and then somebody is coming. That was not just the customs, there were a few other people from other agencies, and asking to leave the plane. And what is interesting at that time, later on the Foreign Office issued the statement. They said that we have to fight with the arms smuggling and all these things. But it was quite funny because, you know, the plane was about to leave UK, not coming. So the plane came to the UK and disembarked the passengers, you know, put all the loads, and then they loaded once again from the UK. The people were waiting, and then they decided to check whether any arms or anything else is not leaking from the UK. From my point of view, it's quite strange, but maybe, you know, somebody, you know, who was making this statement, they didn't bother, you know, whether the plane was coming to the UK or leaving the UK. But as I said, my problem is that against all the rules, the plane was demanded to search in absence of the crew. It's absolutely unacceptable, and that's why it was such a strong reaction from the Russian authorities. I hope you're not tired. No, two questions.
Very quickly.
No. Respect all the others. Sorry, not more than two questions, please.
Thank you.
I respect Daily Mail, Daily Telegraph. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Paul Brand from ITV News. Firstly, Yulia Skripal has just issued her first statement from her hospital bed saying, "My strength is growing daily since my father and I were incapacitated." Doesn't Yulia Skripal's statement add legitimacy to Britain's account of what happened? And secondly,
I didn't see the statement. Sorry about that. That probably was released while we were making the press conference.
do you welcome the fact that her strength is growing daily?
I wrote a letter to the surgeon detective, and I was happy that he was, you know, he was in a good health. And I'll be happy, you know, just to congratulate, you know, my compatriots that they're well. So that's what we all need. But it doesn't replace the investigation, because, you know, we want to know what happened here.
Secondly, then, if I may, If you really feel that Britain is making all of this up, why do you appear to be enjoying it so much? Shouldn't you be angry, outraged, upset?
This is my style. Don't take my smiles as for granted.
But many people feel as if it's Russia not taking this seriously, as if it's a game.
No, it's not a game. We're taking this seriously. Probably you are one of the readers of our tweets, right? Are you reading our tweets? Yes, you are. We are using, in this situation, the sense of humor. Because, some statements are really, well, are not friendly with the common sense. That's why.
Is there a sense of humor in all of this?
No, we're talking about the statements. We're not about the substance. The way how it is presented, the only way is just to say what we feel about that. But we take everything very seriously. For us, it's not a joke. Believe me.
What would be the benefit for the United States, led by a president with good business and personal relationships with Russia, to back up the sanctions, to proceed to the expulsion of more Russian diplomats than anybody on Trump charges by Britain? What would be the benefit of Britain to trump up the charges, to invent this story? What is the benefit for NATO countries not to have cooperative relations with Russia?
Well, I'm not going to comment, the policy of the United States. It's not my job here. But I can comment the British foreign policy. And from my point of view, there are two reasons of that. And that's exactly what my minister said. Divert attention from the Brexit. That's what Lavrov said. And the second is to take a lead in the Western world for deterrence of Russia. So this is the second. So these two goals, as my minister said, were behind everything what happened. Anybody?
James Landau, BBC. Can I just go back to the OPCW? How can you say that you're following due process and abiding by the rules of the international community when you say you will not accept the findings of this body unless Russian investigators are involved? And secondly, can I just clarify your answer to my colleague Mr. Sengupta when he asked what is Russia's current theory behind the Salisbury attack? We've heard many different theories from different Russian voices as to who might have been responsible for that, which organs of the British state, which other countries, that we mentioned Sweden earlier. You said, and I quote, "We are not blaming anyone." Can I just be absolutely clear? As of now, as of 2:20 today, the official position of the Russian state is that they are not blaming anyone.
And we want to see the evidence. This is the conclusion and the answer to your question. Then, after the evidence, having evidence, we will make the conclusions. As far as by the way, that was also my statement about the Russian involvement. It's not only the Russian involvement, as I said before, it's also the involvement of the other countries. So we need the transparent investigation, and we don't want to see the monopoly of the very limited group of countries. So it's we have to trust to this.
You're not trusting the OPCW.
No. Don't put the roof. No. The OPCW consists of the people. Every single mission consists of the nationals. OPCW doesn't have their own experts. This is the experts from Britain, from the United States, from India, from China, from, I don't know, Brazil. So it's a very concrete story. So what I'm talking about is that we need, not just the British experts to make the conclusions. We want to see some other countries to be involved.
Very specifically never names the identity of its investigators to avoid this kind of business.
That's why we're calling the transparency. And this is a very specific case. And what the OPCW is telling us, by the way, that was exactly the statement of the Director General. He said, we will be happy to make it transparent, but we need the consent of Britain. So everything, all about transparency, is in the British hands. Sorry about that. I think everybody ties, me not. Yeah.
Hello, Ambassador. I'm Catherine Philp from The Times. I wanted to ask if Russia is so keen on seeing the evidence and wants transparency, why has Russia done so much to impede the investigations into chemical attacks in Syria, ending up with closing down a joint investigative mechanism?
To make the story short about Syria, read our answer on the website on the article of Alistair Bird. He wrote an article yesterday, and we give an answer. So the major problem, I'm not going to speak long, the major problem in Syria was that the OPCW didn't take the samples in a place. So that was, they didn't have, they didn't make the chain of custody. This is the rule number 1 in the OPCW, and that was the problem for us. That's why we reacted in the way how we reacted. But to answer your question, you know, this is one page. Everything is just described and just explained ABC.
Dominic Wack on Sky News. Ambassador, you can say that Russia didn't invent Novichok, and your boss can suggest that maybe British spies were behind the attack in Salisbury. But isn't it a question of... I
said that brings us to the conclusion. It's not something that we are just stating.
But all these claims, isn't it really a question of credibility? And 28 nations have decided to believe Britain and not Russia. Yesterday, 14 voted against your motion, 15 voted. 15 voted.
Yeah.
Against the motion, 14 abstained.
17
abstained. Isn't it ultimately down to whether people believe Russia or not? And isn't Boris Johnson right in the end that people are not going to fall for your lies forever?
Well, give us the evidence. And, you know, yesterday I met I invited all the ambassadors who are accredited here in London. Of course, you know, the EU was represented by Bulgaria. They are the chairman. All the rest didn't come. But the rest of the world was here. And I talked to almost everybody. And they told me that they don't believe in the story which was presented by this so-called Group 28. Why? Because they belong to one bloc. That's it. This is the NATO. NATO countries with its own discipline. That's why, you know, just to say that the whole world based only on the NATO countries, sorry, if you take the United Nations, it's 193 countries. That's much bigger than this 28. And all the rest, simply don't buy anything without the evidence. And I will be surprised if they will be happy to join, you know, some kind of a condemnation or something without any proofs. So basically, what they want out of Britain is just the facts. And then they will decide who is right and who is wrong. But the major part is missing.
I want to also ask you how relieved you are that Yulia Skripal says that she is recovering, her strength is growing down. You say you congratulate your compatriots. Tell us, how do you feel about this news from Salisbury?
Well, you know, I'm really happy, and I hope that the Sergei Skripal will also recover. And I'm quite sure that one day Yulia will come back to Moscow, where she has job, partners. You know, she's a wealthy person, and she's doing well. As far as the father, that's his choice. You know, he decided to live here in the UK, no problem. Because, you know, from the point of the Russian state, Russia has no problems with him. Because, you know, he was sentenced, he spent, you know, several years in the prison, and then he's like any other citizens, he's clear. That's it. So for us, they are just the Russian citizens, and we're here to defend the rights of that citizens. No sound, please. Could you help? Could you help with the microphone? Откройте окошко, откройте, потому что здесь уже народ тяжело. Yes, please.
Lourdes Gomez from Sputnik Spanish Service. What is your understanding of Mr. Skripal's activities just before the attack? Was he still working for the MI6 or mainly cooperating with the Spanish other agencies?
No idea. No idea. He lived as a private citizen. We didn't have any information. I learned about him only after this tragic accident. We cannot say anything, but we will ask these questions. We'll put this question to the British government.
Mark DiStefano from BuzzFeed News. Ambassador, you keep talking about evidence, and then when it came to talking about what the British people thought, you referred to a Twitter poll. And then with your Twitter account on the 18th of March, you said, in the absence of evidence, we definitely need Poirot in Salisbury. I mean, you're giggling now. Do you think it's really helpful that the Russian ambassador is trolling the UK in this circumstance online?
No, we're not trolling. We are puzzled because, you know, we need investigation and we cannot get the cooperation. So that's why that was put the way that we need the investigation. That was the message about the investigation. I understand that you didn't like this form, you know, because probably you watched Poirot and you know what's behind his stories. You don't, you know, you're not watching Poirot.
We're big fans of Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So this is all about the investigation. Sorry about that.
Yeah, my name is Henriette Engelson from Swiss Television. I've got a question. You mentioned Switzerland voted against Russia in the OPCW. What do you think about it? Isn't it quite a strong sign? Switzerland is not part of the NATO, Switzerland is not part of the European Union, and didn't have sanctions, implemented sanctions against Russia until now.
Well, I didn't mention a few other countries. So sorry about for mentioning your country, but that was, you know, sort of illustration that your country took a sovereign decision, because everybody who is voting at the OPCW, this is their sovereign decision. As I understand, they were together with the EU countries. That's it.
Do you still think Switzerland is quite neutral, or could even be a part as, or have a role as a mediator when there are tensions between Russia and other countries, or not anymore?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm working here with the UK. You know, we're not about, you know, it's not my job. My job is to engage Britain in joint investigation and to get the answers to the questions that we put. And 1 month passed since that time that we put all these questions. So it's my job is not about your country. My job is around that country. Russian television. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Alexander Kavak, Russia.
It's a little bit louder, a little bit louder.
Have you requested any information about the antidote which was given to Sergei and Yulia Skripal, and maybe you got some official reply?
Well, we didn't get any official reply. As soon as we watched the interview of the head of the Porton Down lab, and he said that no antidote was used, we immediately requested the Foreign Office. So this is the way how we are communicating with them. And still no answer, you know, I think 2 days passed, 2 days, 3 days, no answer. So silence.
Channel 1 Russia. Are you in close contact with your British colleagues, and do you hear from them, are they going to grant to Victoria Skripal visa to visit the United Kingdom? And if they are not, then what will be your reaction?
Well, I hope that they will give the visa, but from my point of view, timing is very important. And since this is humanitarian case, we believe that it will be, you know, issued as far as possible. But we will see. We will see. What was the first question?
Are you in close contact with your British colleagues, and do you know if they're going to grant a visa?
Yeah. We are asking for modalities. For example, the person is coming to London, whom to contact, whom to call, I mean on the British side, in order to go to Salisbury, to this hospital. So far, as I understand, Victoria Skripal has no access to this information. You know, the British embassy didn't give this information to her. And we requested, I think 3 days ago, exactly the same information from the British government, no reply. So basically, I'm not going to make the conclusion that they don't want to see Victoria here, but so far we don't have any information, and sometimes the British authorities are very quick, but sometimes not.
So this time they're not responsive?
No.
Phil Black from CNN. Looking ahead towards the Security Council meeting, can you tell us why Russia has called this meeting now, at this time? Does Russia have new information to present, and what does it hope to achieve?
I think it's time to call the Security Council, definitely, and why wait? But what we're going to discuss at the Security Council, you know, we want to have a good discussion about what's happening around the poisoning of this in Salisbury. So this is the whole story about the Security Council. It's a very simple, it's a very serious question. That's why we want to discuss among the members of the Security Council. But wait a few hours and you will see, you know, what will be the discussion. It's happening, you know, maybe in 3-4 hours. Who else? The last one, no? Yeah.
Thank you. Thomas Bickel from ARD Joint Radio and Television. One to OPCW and one to, again, Novichok. You say you want to be part of the investigation of OPCW and you want full transparency. Does that mean that you don't trust the OPCW anymore in the current structures? And second on Novichok, you mentioned it several times now, but just to confirm, do you confirm that the Russian Federation never produced and never had any kind of the Novichok family?
I confirm. That was confirmed yesterday at the meeting of the OPCW. This is first. As far as the whether we trust OPCW or not, it's not a fair question because we are part of that organization. And we are working together with the other countries there. So as part of the organization, we want to be involved. That's it. Why exclude us? Who is the last one? Ah, you're the last. You know, after all these questions, you know, the new one came to your mind.
Yes, can I just talk about Victoria Skripal? Are you...
You definitely want the interview with her, am I right?
I'd be very happy to.
Yeah, me too.
Just tell me where and when, I'll be there.
I give you a secret, the BBC is always around her in Moscow. He gave to the BBC more interviews than anybody else.
So Victoria Skripal will, if she is granted a UK visa by the British authorities...
You're doubting, definitely.
I just raised my question. If Victoria Skripal is given a visa by the British authorities, will she be here with you, either in the residence, and will she be accompanied by Russian diplomats? And are you sponsoring her trip? Will she be flown by the Russian government to the United Kingdom? Or are you aware, is she going to be coming of her own volition, by her own means, and not with the Russian government's
Okay,
support?
first of all, we're not sponsoring her visit. This is first. She's coming on her own. I offered her the transportation. And so basically I said that if she wants to stay in the premises of the embassy, not here, of course, this is only for the ambassador, but we have a few places here around London. If she would choose that way, we'll be happy to accommodate her. And so it's the timing of the visit, it's up to her. And how long she's going to stay here, it's up to her. Whether she is going to invite, let's say, any press, this is her own decision. What I know that she invited already the BBC, and they're taking care of her, and they filled her enquêtes, visa enquêtes, as I understand. In Moscow, in order to get the visa, you have to fill the forms. And I think the BBC, helped her to do this. That's what she told me. And we're absolutely in her hands. If she wants an interpreter, we'll be happy to provide. But it doesn't substitute the consular access to Yulia Skripal by the embassy. That's a different story. She's coming like a relative. And, it's her private business. But we want to come officially to Skripal, Yulia Skripal, and to her father in order to see his or their condition, talk to them, put some questions, because we have to investigate that maybe terrorist act. I don't know. Nobody knows. That's what we want. As far as as I said, Victoria Skripal, she's coming, but on the part of the embassy, we will be happy to be helpful. But it's up to her to decide what she wants. And maybe she's going to come maybe with somebody else. I don't know. It's her personal business. She's a private citizen, and she's going to manage her time and everything. But we will be happy to assist her because we believe this is a very special case. And she doesn't know English well, and in order to help her, but exactly the same questions were put on the British side. Are you going to help her here, or with the maybe accommodation? Who is going to support her here? If she's going to stay, who is going to coordinate her visits to the hospital? That's exactly what we cannot get. And she cannot get from the British side. That's the problem. But on our part, we're always ready to do this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think, ladies and gentlemen, you missed the lunch, but you got a lot of good things. Food for thought. Thank you very much. Thank you.